Hi, this is Maggie from Crafts the Charm. Thank you for stopping by the channel. I'm so glad you're here. We have a whole bunch of bags, most of them canvas, that we've gotten from conferences and some from road races, and I just have them all stuffed into a bag in my closet. So today what I'm going to do is choose one of those lucky bags and give it a new life. And the theme that I've chosen for my new bag is an intersection of Black History Month and one of my favorite shows, Star Trek. And I've chosen the original series groundbreaking character Uhura for my bag. So what I'm going to do first is create a picture of Uhura that I'm going to print on fabric. And I still only have a black and white laser printer. And it's an older laser printer. But to do this, what we do is take some freezer paper, and you can see my freezer paper is 18 inches wide. So I'm going to cut a sheet approximately 12 inches long, and then I'm going to cut that into two pieces, which are 9 by 12 inches. And then I'm going to iron some fabric, and what I ended up using is some muslin fabric. I also did one, you'll see I did several of these, but there was really only one that was usable. I did one on a sort of a pink print, and I did most of them on muslin. So I'm going to iron the muslin, and then you take the shiny side of the freezer paper, so it has a plastic coating on it, and put that face down on the back of your fabric, if your fabric has a back and a front. And then you're going to iron that on. And then I trim around it, and then I cut it as precisely as I can to 8.5 by 11 inches. Now, I found a picture of Nichelle Nichols as Uhura online that I really like, and I did just a little bit of manipulation of the image. I pixelated the background. I was a little bit inspired by Liechtenstein, and I wanted to give it just a little bit of a comic book, sort of pop culture kind of look. So I did pixelate the background, and the first one I printed, I didn't do anything special to Uhura, but I didn't like the way it came out so much. So then I did put an effect over her as well, just so she would come out a little more clearly in the printing, because it is black and white and it is an old printer. So I'm doing the largest size image as I can. I'm doing an 8.5 by 11 inch image. So then what I did is just made sure to choose thicker paper for printing this, and I used the feed on the front of the printer, and for my printer, the side that you want to print on is up when you do that. Now, I really wanted to print this with this sort of white border around Uhura, which I had created, but you can see when I tried to print that, I got a sort of after effect on my printer, and I do think this is because it's an older printer. I tried several things, that's why I have so many versions like this, and I was never able to get rid of that after effect. So I did get rid of the white border, and I think I'm still getting the after effect, but it's not as noticeable because I don't have the white border. Now here's the conference bag that I'm going to use, and I like this one because it has those sort of tan borders on the side. Honestly, this reminds me of the uniforms in Star Trek the Motion Picture, which are ugly uniforms, but I think the bag is cute. I like those borders. It's just a little extra detail that most conference bags don't have. So what I'm doing with the bag is just ironing it, and I did measure it to make sure that my image would fit and size the image. Now, the first image that I worked on is the one you see me working with here, and this one is one that I did not ultimately use, but I did the same thing with the others, and that is just trim around the edges so I don't have that white border. And when I did put it over the bag, you could still see the logo through Nichelle Nichols' face, and I tried to pick it up, the logo, pick it off of the fabric, but it was just going to be too difficult. So what I decided to do was use a piece of black cotton fabric behind the image. And that I feel is just sort of reminiscent of an old TV set. So I thought that that black border would look just fine. So I cut that to be just wide enough to fit within those tan borders of the bag and a little bit taller than the image of Uhura. I do want to put some text under the image, so I wanted to make it tall enough that I could fit some text. I purchased some Cricut vinyl for this. I decided to go with a red color. Uhura wears a red uniform in the original series. And I found a color, this is Cricut vinyl, which I thought was pretty close to the color of her uniform. And I have a font which I downloaded from the internet called Final Frontier Old Style, which is a Star Trek looking font. And on my Cricut, I typed the words, "Sorry, neither," and sized those so they would fit under the image in that black area on the bag, and had my Cricut cut them on the red vinyl. This is iron-on vinyl. Now that line is one that Uhura says in an episode called The Naked Time, when Sulu, who is ill with a virus, calls her a fair maiden. She responds, "Sorry, neither." And remember, when you're going to print lettering on the Cricut, to mirror that when you print it. I found this Cricut vinyl very hard to work with. The plastic that it's on is super sticky, and the vinyl is super stretchy. So I was challenged to weed that a little bit just because it's so stretchy, and then it really wants to stick back to that plastic backing. Now, I decided that since I couldn't print that white border around Uhura because of my printer being old and me not being able to fix it, that I would cut the border on my Cricut. And again, you have to mirror that because you're printing on the opposite side from the side that you're ultimately going to put down. So you turn it over when you put it down. So I cut that border and weeded around that. And because it was so sticky, I did take the plastic and put it on my sweater to try to make it a little less sticky, but I decided to immediately place it down on the Uhura image so that, just so that it wouldn't be sitting around for a long time and possibly have something happen to it before I put it onto the bag. So I did prepare the images before I attached them to the bag, which isn't the order I would have done it in if I hadn't been concerned about this vinyl. So the instructions on the vinyl say 300 degrees for 30 seconds, but even at 400 degrees for 30 seconds on each side and then another 30 seconds on the top, I still found I had a terrible time removing the plastic from this vinyl, even on the fabric piece. So even on just the black cotton fabric, I thought, maybe it's because I printed on this fabric that I'm having trouble with the border around Uhura, but I struggled to get this plastic off. The letters just wanted to stick to the plastic a lot more than they wanted to stick to the fabric. So after a lengthy battle, I did manage to get all of the plastic off, but some of the letters are a little bit distorted, so I'm not very happy about that. I haven't had that problem with knockoff vinyl. But so what I did was I put some parchment paper over it and ironed it again. And then even then I had to press it down with my fingers in places to make sure it knew where it was supposed to stick. So if you're experienced with the Cricut, I would love to know if you have a tip for me. Maybe I have missed something really basic. I tried to follow the instructions on the package, but I really had a difficult time removing the plastic. Oh, and I tried it after letting it cool, which is what it says on the package, but I thought, oh, maybe I should do it earlier. I don't know if I always let it cool before I remove it. But that was worse because then the vinyl would stretch. It would stick to the plastic and stretch away from the fabric. So that was definitely a bad idea. So eventually I got my piece of black fabric that says "Sorry, neither" at the bottom, and my image of Uhura, which is outlined in red vinyl. And what I'm going to use now is Wonder Under double-sided fusible interfacing. So this is a fusible interfacing you can fuse to the back of a piece of fabric, and then you remove the backing and you can fuse it then to another piece of fabric. I love this stuff. Usually I sew around it, like particularly if it's something that's going to get some wear and tear. So we'll see how this works if I don't sew around it. So I'm just going to follow the package instructions, and I'm going to lay the Uhura image, the back side of it, onto the rough side of the Wonder Under and iron it. I think it said 10 to 15 seconds. Just move that around until it's completely fused, and then cut out roughly around it and do the same thing with the black fabric. And then I'm going to do one final cut of both pieces of fabric and just tidy up the edges of both of them. Then to fuse the fabrics permanently, you remove the backing And then you're going to use damp heat. And again, I think it's about 10 to 15 seconds. Again, follow the package instructions, and you just use a damp press cloth and iron all the way around. So I put the black piece down first, damp press cloth, ironed it onto the bag, and then I put the image of Uhura on top of that and ironed it onto the bag. Now, if I end up with messy edges, what I might do is try to put more vinyl over the edges, so do a vinyl border. I have black vinyl, which is knockoff vinyl that I've had more luck with. So if this doesn't end up holding down, or if it starts to fray, I might put a little vinyl over it, or I might do something else like glue some ribbon or something, but I'd like it to have a clean, sort of science fiction-y look if possible. So here's the final bag. I'd love to know what you think of this project. I'd love to know what you would put on a conference bag. If you have a bunch of conference bags in your closet, like I do, please tell me in the comments. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you enjoy this sort of content, please subscribe to Crafts the Charm. Thank you for spending time with me today. Take care.